Ex-vegans, why did you start eating meat again? I still eat mostly vegetarian food and have done all my life. However, my husband was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis and coeliac, which means that a high fiber or lower iron diet is not an option, and a lot of the substitutes aren't gluten-free. More often than not when he has meat I'll leave it or have the veggie equivalent, but there are just not enough hours in the day to make 2 separate lasagna and sauce etc. I have a friend who turned vegan because of ulcerative colitis. Weird how it affects different people differently. Yup. UC and Crohn's affects everyone on an individual level. What's good for one person isn't necessarily good for another. Also, your diet may be very different when you're flaring versus in remission. I know mine is. Got a genetic illness which makes me permanently anemic. My body only absorbs a tiny amount of iron from food, and that amount is burned pretty fast. Turns out it doesn't help to cut that tiny amount as well. Also, I didn't replace the meat, I just left it out, so I basically ate less food. Edit. The genetic mutation I have is called thalassemia, specific type. Thalassemia beta intermedia. It's pretty common especially in Mediterranean people. Usually only severe cases are properly diagnosed, since you can't really do more than iron infusions, blood transfusions, etc. Edit. Since some of you don't get it, iron supplements don't work. I get a lot of iron infusions. I need meat to get a lot of iron in me, so I can absorb that minimal amount, because my doctor wants me to absorb as much as I can from food. I avoid processed meat, it's usually just a rare beefsteak for me. Edit. Since some people wonder why I have thalassemia and am iron deficient. I have no idea about the details, I just know I have thalassemia, 99% sure, and doc says I need iron infusions. Hey my fellow Mediterranean iron deficient redditor. I'm still as veggie as possible, but I moved to a country where it's 10,000% harder to be vegan, Japan. This is mostly due to not knowing a ton of Japanese and the fact that there is fish or meat in so many restaurant foods, and the culture here isn't like in America, where you can ask for items to be removed or substitutions. Not that my Japanese ability would allow me to do that anyway. Even the sauces, like oyster sauce. They're everywhere. I feel you. I'm not vegan, but I can imagine your struggles. The food in Japan was so good, though. That too, and it's pretty much guaranteed to be in every soup stock because they're usually either pork-based or seafood-based, dashi. And yes, the food is so good. I usually just give the meat to other people and eat extra rice or noodles. I love me some carbs. I was using veganism as a guise for an eating disorder for well over a year. When I finally realized I was in trouble, after losing 80 pounds, I went and bought lamb chops and devoured them. Also therapy. Same here. Restrictive prep heavy diets and disordered eating are a perfect storm. I did this with keto. It got so bad I was only having 1 meal and a coffee a day while boxing. Smart, while your opponent is watching your right hand, you splash them with the coffee in your left. I really want this to have gold. Hold on a minute while I figure out how awards work, mate. Edit. Surprisingly easy and painless. Is it really that easy? Yup. Now that's effective self-defense work. I was on a diet for health reasons. When I was told I was allowed to eat meat again, my fridge started looking like a Mexican fever dream. I want to eat that dream. Out of context, this reply is hilarious. I'm imagining that there's lots of dancing tacos, quesadillas, beans, and chickens, while mariachi bands play on a swirling tie-dye background. My aunt was a vegetarian for health reasons. The day she got diagnosed with cancer she went to In-N-Out. Similarly, my aunt 75-year-old was vegetarian, but a few days after she lost her daughter my mum to cancer, I saw her eating a pork pie. I was horrified and asked her what she was doing. She said she didn't believe in God anymore, so who cared? Update. Since a few asked. My nana was a Christian and believed in God. Her fav animals were piggies, she believed in being kind to animals, hence the vegetarianism, and being a good person would get you into heaven, so refused to eat meat on that basis of staying good with God. She's still obviously kind to animals, but she no longer believes that following the rules by the book will do her any favors anymore. She's 80 now and she's cray-cray and definitely living life to the fullest. Now we found a spliff on Christmas Day in a cabinet she claims came from her mate Sheila, also 80, and insists it's medicinal marijuana, yeah right. We all love her dearly. I mean, if I was her I'll do the same thing. I wouldn't really give a fuck about meat if I'm dying anyways. Well, we're all dying anyway. Yeah, but she's like the Usain Bolt of dying. That's fast. How's she maintain unwrinkled in us? Didn't note the username above, thought you were saying how does she maintain her unwrinkled in us? Coffee fucking everywhere now and I need my inhaler. Cheers. I feel like so many people spend so much time treating their bodies like temples, thinking they will live forever, that they forget to live in the now. I could be hit by a drunk driver tomorrow, and all that healthy living would all be for naught. Live in the now, but with a dose of moderation, and people would live just about as long as if they ate nothing but healthy things. Edit. Apparently some of y'all need reading comprehension lessons and stop inferring things I never said. The takeaway from my comment should be stop taking diet too seriously. Eat well the majority of the time and stay active, but don't be afraid to splurge once in a while, i.e. once a week, once a month, whatever works on that greasy pizza place you love. Mental health is just as important as bodily health. If you are happy eating vegan, plant-based or vegetarian, more power to you, a lot people aren't. Everything in moderation including moderation. Laughs in Inuit. I grew up living in a urban city with fresh fruits and vegetables on hand. I moved home to a place where we probably get fresh veggies and fruits every 2-3 weeks, and they do not last long. They either are bad or people buy them all out within the day. I learned to appreciate fresh meat and berries in the summer that's provided by the land. How far from civilization do you live? If they're in the US, sounds like Alaska. I was traveling in Africa, edit. This part of the trip happened to be in Zambia, not that the specific location really matters for the point of the story, and stayed in a small village off the beaten track. I had just arrived and as the matriarch of my host family was showing me to my room and helping me get settled in, her boys were out back slaughtering a goat for me. I couldn't turn down that meal because that goat represented a substantial part of the family's assets. The whole experience made me realize that the social constructs around sharing food are far more important to me than what the food is. If someone is serving it, I will eat it with gratitude. Edit. Yes, my stomach did not handle it very well. That said, my stomach was having difficulty anyway. There were unspeakable things done to the pit latrine. Edit. No, I would not knowingly eat human flesh. Fortunately, societal taboos on this are much more universal than our taboos related to eating goat. That's what the Dalai Lama does. When given a choice, he chooses vegan. If he's a guest, he honors the host by accepting what is served. He is a pretty cool dude, yeah. This is also what the Buddha himself did. He was mostly vegetarian, but would accept meat prepared for him. That's not really how he taught us though. Buddha won't accept any kind of meat if that meat are prepared for him. But if it was a leftover or family stumbled upon him with meat dishes and offer it to him, he would accept it. To clarify, the Vinaya states that monks cannot eat meat directly prepared for them, but if meat happened to end up in their alms bowl, there were no karmic consequences for eating it. A lot of hardcore Buddhists in the West travel to places like Thailand and are shocked to find that the monks love cheeseburgers. Oh no, how did that cheeseburger end up in my alms bowl? And oh god, now there's chicken wings, too. Starts munching. I had a Buddhist roommate who'd say shit like this. It was hilarious. He'd actually buy meat from the store though, on purpose. His argument was that the food he was buying was never specifically killed for him, and someone had to eat before the animal's death went to waste. He was a good guy, but a top-tier bullshitter for sure. You were definitely in Africa. My family has done this a few times. Mostly chickens are slaughtered for guests, but if you got a goat you are top shelf, as good as royalty. Glad you recognized the sacrifice and accepted the meal. Trust me, they were excited to give. I was just about to say, usually it's a chicken or a symbolic purchase of a large piece of meat, but slaughtering a goat for a guest? Those people were throwing it all in. Believe me, I know. I'm proud of you for recognizing the significance of their gesture and being flexible with your diet to be respectful. Out of curiosity, I'm nosy. You can tell me to take a hike if you'd like. What was the significance of the visit? Why did they view your arrival in such high regard? And most importantly, how was your meal? This fits into the Paris exception as formulated by influential vegan philosopher Peter Singer, and I think is something worth thinking through for every vegan. Setting and understanding your own limits in advance is a good thing to do. Personally, even when I ate meat I wasn't a huge fan of goat, so I'm not sure what I'd do in this exact situation. I'd personally hold my nose internally. I don't need to actually hold it and dig in. When something is such a big deal for someone in terms of both their assets and their culture, it's important to be accommodating. It could be extremely offensive to not accept in those occasions. If you absolutely couldn't do it, I suppose the best idea would be to not go to a place like that to begin with. Yes, agreed. People plan their travel around all sorts of restrictions, after all. Not me, but my brother-in-law went vegan for a stretch. One of his pet causes is donating blood. As soon as he's able to, he's down at the blood clinic donating again. Anyway, on a vegan diet, his blood iron levels got too low to donate blood. So it was back to meat for him. But his daughter, my niece, is still vegan, and it's driving them nuts because she'll only eat those vegan chicken nuggets, and they're getting pricey. A lot of people who donate blood frequently get low iron just from that. I go every 3 months. Women have to wait 87 days, at least where I live. I think men is like 50 or so days. And the nurse told me she was shocked I wasn't anemic just from the fact that I've been going like clockwork for the past 3 years, and I'm vegetarian. I went through a bad breakup last year and was eating not very much and eating mostly junk for about a month, and then went to donate blood, and my iron was exactly at the cutoff it needed to be, and that was the closest I've come in 3+ years to becoming ineligible to donate. That's funny because the last time I tried to donate before going vegan, my iron was slightly too low. But after going vegan, my iron was well above the threshold for donating. That's because I learned more about nutrition when going vegan and know what I need to eat. It's very passive, though. You probably went vegan the right way, not the hip way. There's a considerable amount of pseudoscience among hippie vegans, and it really bothers me. Organic isn't better. Non-GMO isn't better. Raw isn't better. Fruitarian isn't better. If you check out our vegan, you'll see that the hippie organic vegan type is frowned upon there. Just search for GMO or organic in that subreddit, and you'll see what I mean. I don't think the right way isn't the hip way. It's probably the most common type of vegan you'll find. This is partly because people who go vegan and only eat raw fruit and vegetables or do it as a detox diet or do other dumb hippie shit are less likely to stick to it. People in maybe meat and dairy companies like to poke fun at the stupid types of vegan to try to discredit us all and make veganism seem stupid even though it isn't. Just some vegans are. I became vegetarian specifically to fuel an active eating disorder. When I got on the path to recovery, I started eating meat again. This is a big reason that my GF and I stick to talking about going flexitarian or similar, rather than committing to any hard and fast rules of any sort. Restrictive diets are pure fuel for eating disorders, and both of us have suffered in one way or another from them. My husband and I eat vegetarian or vegan every other week. I agree, keeping things flexible really helps. Restrictive diets really are ED fuel. I'm still shocked at how quickly it can get bad. There are food deserts in my city. People with no transportation buy what they can get. We are several communities that only have convenience stores within walking or biking distance. No public transportation in my neck of the woods unless you are disabled. Do you think grocery store delivery will get rid of food deserts? We have a substantial one in my city. With the grocery chains expanding delivery and Amazon grocery delivery, I was hoping these would soon be a thing of the past. Thought? Am I being too optimistic? Delivery also costs a shitload extra, at least where I live. And depending on the delivery service, that cost might not just be delivery fees, but also product markups. It really can be substantial if you are buying large quantities, i.e. feeding a family. I wanted to see if it made me sick. I've since eaten it here and there, but it's not often. I was vegan food and otherwise for near a decade. I'm planning on going back because I can honestly say that I've not been missing out. It's possible to veganize about anything these days. Oh, also. No, it didn't make me sick at all. I'm a vegetarian and every now and then I wonder if I just decided to get a burger would I vomit or shit my brains out? Or have I just worked myself up to believe I'll get sick? My first meal after a year as a vegetarian was chick-fil-A and I could not hold it down. May have been more the grease than anything since going veggie didn't have greasy foods in my diet either. I became homeless and couldn't afford to be picky about my food. My life is stable now finance-wise, and I now eat a balanced diet with meat, try to eat a lot of veggies, and I sometimes eat fast food and candy, which I didn't do when I was vegan. Reason I became vegan was I thought meat is gross, and I still think it is, so I still don't eat it too excessively. I wonder a lot how I would end up eating if I became homeless. I went vegetarian because I dislike meat too, mostly because my mom wasn't an awesome cook. Stopped because I was being lazy and not eating right. I still tend to stick with vegetarian dishes in restaurants, just because I don't think they'll cook the meat right. I was vegan for 3 years and had gone home to my community, which is tremendously poor. To have cold cuts and a bag of Doritos is a luxury. My aunt, who was going blind, made a family feast and everyone came, and she made a very traditional lamb stew. My heart broke when I thought of how much of her income she must have spent to make this possible, and felt like a completely entitled outsider when I told them I was vegan. They couldn't comprehend, when food is so hard to come by, why anyone would choose to not eat any protein available to keep from being hungry. Being vegan comes from a first world position of entitlement. It is a luxury to choose what you eat when so many eat whatever is available, not out of an ethical decision, but out of necessity. Did you eat the lamb stew anyway? I totally understand you ethically don't think eating animals is right, but I can tell from your post you also very much care for your family's feelings. It must have been a difficult, conflicting situation for you. I lost a lot of weight to the point that people asked if I was okay. I was tired and had low energy. I ended up being anemic. I slowly ended up getting to a point that I started eating meat again. Your experience certainly reflects mine. We went vegan and involved our doctor in an effort to ensure we were doing it right. We tried a vegan lifestyle many years ago when our kids still lived at home, and my husband and younger daughter thrived on it, while our older daughter and I struggled with vitamin deficiencies and borderline anemia, and we wanted to be certain we were doing it right this go around. We had blood work drawn to measure nutrient levels, cholesterol, blood sugar, etc. Then we charted our food for a year. 3 blood draws in, and Doc, who praised our menus, pulled the plug as my iron levels and some nutrients plummeted. I wanted this to work as we were committed to eating for planetary health, and my hubby, an amateur chef, learned vegetarian cooking and made delicious meals. His body, as usual, thrived in veganism, mine absolutely did not. I keep reading people who say that going without animal products is healthful for everyone, but twice I tried, and, despite our diet being signed off on by medical experts, failed. Once my nutrient levels were restored, we began reducing animal products in our diet, and I am being monitored as we explore this option, but we just began in January, so I don't have results yet. Helpful. Just a heads up, as both a vegan and a doctor here, most doctors have little idea of how nutrition works outside of a few modules they learned back in med school. If you want proper advice on a substantial diet change, see a dietitian, not a nutritionist. Your own doc is going to know your medical results and labs, of course, but their diet advice is often not always fairly broad and not even remotely comprehensive or up to date. The best thing to do is see a doctor and a dietitian where possible and have them work together to get things sorted. Fairly stupid reason, because I broke up with my ex. I became a vegan to support her, and it felt weird eating meat while she was so against it. When the relation was over, however, I no longer felt a need to support my ex in that way. Thus meat was back on the menu, boys. Edit. Holy shit, thanks for all the upvotes. Meat was back on the menu, boys. Lively uric high noises. Just a mouthful. A bit of the flesh. Hair loss and health issues got worse. I'm fine now. I was vegan for a year due to wanting to eat clean, and it backfired. It's very hard to have a healthy vegan diet. I really dislike it when people tout it as a healthy lifestyle. Yes, it can be healthy, but it's harder to have a healthy vegan diet than a healthy regular diet. Generally, people seem to think lower calories, sugar and saturated fat means healthier, but it's a lot more complicated than that. You have to think about nutrients too, and eating meat, dairy and eggs makes it a lot easier. Obviously, you can't just skip out fruit and vegetables, that's also bad, but balance is the best option for the majority of people. Edit. A lot of people seem to be saying that it's not hard to have a healthy vegan diet. I'm afraid you are talking from a position of being educated about food. Most people just simply aren't that knowledgeable. If you are vegan, you do have to make sure you plug gaps in your diet. This requires more knowledge than it does if you eat meat and dairy. Not vegan but vegetarian. I was vegetarian for a good 4 years. Once I hit the 4-year mark, energy was at an all-time low, my whole body felt weak, and the kicker, I had very frequent nosebleeds. It was so often I was used to it for a while. Eventually the nosebleeds came to be too much, and I started eating meat again. Then the nosebleeds stopped altogether. I haven't had a single nosebleed thus far. Mind you, I quit being vegetarian 2 years ago. My partner was the same way, but she remains a vegetarian because she found out her diet made her B12 deficient. She takes B12 supplements and is back to normal. Vegetarian for 20 years here, B12 supplements are a must. Was vegetarian for 12 years. Had a mental breakdown after a death in the family, and instead of drinking or getting high, I went out and got a steak taco. Life is too short to miss out on tacos. Was it a one-time thing, or do you still consume the taco? If so, have you moved on to other things, or do you keep a taco? Has the taco become a gateway meat to harder and heavier meats? I still eat meat and now eat all kinds of meat. Mostly chicken and turkey though, cause my weak-ass stomach can't handle too much red meat. I had been vegetarian for 10 years. I became pregnant and was concerned that my baby wouldn't get all the nutrients she needed to develop in a healthy way. I still don't eat meat very often, and honestly the alternatives have come such a long way from when I tried my first veggie burger 20 years ago. The dairy substitutes have come so far as well. I remember when there were only 2 non-dairy ice creams that tasted like cardboard. Strangely, the inverse happened for me. I'm not a vegetarian, but after becoming pregnant I didn't want meat at all. It didn't make me sick, I just never wanted it. I was all about fruit and veg, but couldn't make myself eat steak or chicken. I was also never nauseous during my pregnancy, and kiddo was perfectly healthy and 2 days late. He came in at a perfectly normal 6 pounds 12 ounces. Go figure. I went from fat to extremely skinny, and I hadn't strength. I wanted to have bigger muscles, so I started eating protein from veggies. It wasn't enough. I needed a lot per day to increase my muscles, so I started eating 2 eggs every day. And now, I eat 200 grams of meat 2 days a week just for easy protein. I still eat fruits and vegetables every day, I love it. The eggs and meat are just because I want muscles, lol. So I started eating 2 eggs every day. Gonna have to do a lot better than that to be like Gaston. LOL, don't wanna be like him. I won't know what to do with such handsomeness.
Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Tell me what you dislike or love about this video, so please comment below and hit the bell icon so you're notified anytime a new video is released. This is a WeCrow Media production.